with this then.
All right then, so app developer events. So the idea of this session is basically to talk about increasing the amount of initiatives to get more people involved in app development. And by involved, I mean people getting to submit their applications to my apps and ultimately to the software center. At the same time, also to raise awareness of the app developer process and of the platform itself as well. So I'm thinking right now primarily on online events, but there's no reason why we shouldn't discuss like physical events in here. So if anyone has got any ideas, by all means, bring them up. There are a couple of things that I've been thinking about, but I'd like to hear what people think. So I'd like to start with a bit of brainstorming of things that you think that might be useful in terms of promoting app development in Ubuntu. So just to give a couple of examples, and we can expand on this later on. Some of the things that I'd like to have in this cycle is the App Developer Week, which is an online event. Yay! Let's do our event. So a couple of the events that I've been thinking about, just to give again a couple of examples, are the App Developer Week, which is basically an IRC online event to get people to learn about different aspects of app development. We've got different speakers talking about different topics, and there's always something that I find interesting. The other thing I've been thinking about, and this is something I started working last cycle, but for several different reasons, I had to postpone it, was the App Developer Contest. So the idea was basically that we open a contest for people to submit their applications to the software center, and then we use the tools that we've got in Ubuntu to do the whole process around the contest. So that would mean like using the tools like Quickly, Bazaar, and all of the frameworks that we've got to create the applications, get the software center ratings to actually rate the applications, and to basically be used by the judges to decide which applications are the winners. So these are just a couple of ideas that came to mind. So just to start with a kind of brainstorm, do you guys have got any ideas or initiatives that could be useful to promote app development in Ubuntu?
One potentially low-hanging fruit is people who are already making cross-platform apps using tools like Real Basic or LiveCode or Mono or AppCelery. And many of those languages have regional groups, and they often have at least an annual national conference. And I don't know what the budget looks like for this sort of evangelism, but this sort of evangelism was ultimately what made the Mac viable. They hired Guy Kawasaki, gave him a ton of money to go out and find people making apps for other platforms and say, could you make a Mac for me? And so if there's budget to support travel for one or both of you to these types of events, set up a booth and say, look, this is how many millions of users that are available to you because you're already using a multi-platform tool. Mm-hmm. And here's all the resources we have to make it easy to use the tool that you're using, to also have Ubuntu as a deployment option for you.
Okay. So I like the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Is there alternatives that we can do that aren't going to require travel? Because
that would be like sort of the
Are there virtual events we can go to? Are there specific like online forums where
if we consider that level of involvement sort of the most desirable? Mm-hmm. There are all these communities have some things that are going on locally, regionally, virtually. And it's going to vary a lot between tool to tool. Mm-hmm. But if you can find people within the Ubuntu community who know these tools and like these tools, then they can probably identify some of the key
That's
events.
true. Maybe we can identify some local people and give them the resources they need to go to these events and kind of represent Ubuntu as an app developer platform.
For many of the developers who work on Mac and Windows, the common story I see with the cross-platform developer is they use Mac because they enjoy it. They use Windows because that pays for them to do Mac, because the numbers are there. And they don't really think about Linux, and there's the common misperceptions about Linux as freaking and all that crap. So when the numbers come in, like the types of numbers we saw from this morning's session, you know, tens of millions of users in some very broad demographics, key markets, it starts to become a very compelling option for people, but getting that information to them is, I think, the answer. So in addition to identifying people, if there could be some sort of brief communication, a flyer or something that would be easy to share and hand out to such groups.
I think we could do that.
And maybe it's set up in a way where there's room to have it tailored specific for the target audience for a particular language or tool.
I mean, certainly a flyer or marketing material is something that we can probably do. In terms of budget and traveling, I mean, as Mike was saying, that's going to prove a bit more difficult. But
that would be
that's certainly a good idea.
And there's one little corner of the world that I work with, and I've been doing this sort of Ubuntu evangelism, and we'd be happy to continue to. And that language is called Live Code. But I have friends who work with Real Basic, which has a sizable audience, and there are others as well. So maybe as we get the forum going, the developer section inside the forums, we could use that to solicit people who have experience with these types of cross-platform tools.
Okay.
We can find emissaries of sorts, you know, to carry the message out to their communities.
Okay.
And maybe in addition to flyers, you could create a slide deck so people can give presentations on their logs or whatever they want to do.
Make it easy to
The
do.
default is in collateral, isn't it?
Yeah, that was it.
I can tell you what we're planning to do with Ubuntu One.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear.
Well, I can tell you roughly what we're planning to do because I haven't finalised it yet. But we'd like to run, like you say, an app development contest. So what my intention is we'll pick one specific thing that Ubuntu One does. So for this month, it might be file sync or music streaming or URDB or whatever, a particular thing. And then you say, okay, the competition's open, this is the technology, here's some examples, here's a couple of apps that already use it, browse the code, whatever, point to the Ubuntu development site, point to the U1 development site, however we do it. A couple of weeks to enter the competition. People send in apps, then there is some kind of prize, hand Waverley, which is something I haven't worked out yet. And then the next month we do it all again. But what's interesting about it is it's not just do an app. It's focusing on a specific thing, which gives you a couple of benefits. The first one is that it will give people ideas. If you just say, write an app, anything you like, it's quite hard to think of what to actually do. Secondly, it gives you a chance to sharpen up your documentation on one particular aspect because it's got to be good enough to do this. So it prompts you, gives you basically a kick in the head to go better fix that then. And the third thing is it advertises the fact that that technology exists to people. So, I mean, imagine if you said, we want you to build something. For Ubuntu, you might say we want you to build a scope for an existing lens. Doesn't matter which one. That advertises people that scopes exist and how easy they are to build. And you can say, well, look, here's a bunch of examples of things that people have requested that would be cool. You know, build something that plugs into the video lens and does video for your country or something like that. And so when people see it, the fact that that technology exists gets out there. Because you're doing it once a month, there's a regular feed and, at least in theory, get a shed load of apps too, which is nice. So you're advertising the existence of the APIs, you're sharpening up the documentation, you're getting submissions for apps, someone gets a prize, Handwave, or possibly 8 people get a prize or something, and you've got a constant flow of apps, and you can use the judging of it to not only reward people who make the most popular apps, but also saying, well, we like this app more than this one because this one integrates better with the rest of Ubuntu. So if someone submits an app which is dead popular but uses, I don't know, X forms or something horribly wrong as a display technology, you can say, well, it's a very cool app, but this other one, if you look at this, in addition to the thing we asked them for, they also integrate really nicely with the sound menu, and we like that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's not you don't have a gateway where you say you're not allowed to enter unless you do this, but it gives you opportunity to promote apps that fulfill the Ubuntu way, well, I think. So that's what we're planning on doing. Or start, all details possibly subject to change, because I haven't finalised it yet, but that's roughly the plan.
It's really inspiring, Stuart, because what really attracts me to that is the specificity and the regularity.
Yeah.
You're exposing, you're evangelizing key things that may not be on people's radar, and you're doing a different one on a regular basis.
That's the idea, yeah.
And so this has me thinking, is there an Ubuntu column in Dr. Dobbs?
In what?
Dr.
I
Dobbs?
don't think so.
Maybe
Let me send them a letter of inquiry and see if I can be a writer for them. And if I fail, well, you guys can try it.
Yeah.
But, because that would take a regular message
Yeah.
to an audience that is already developing, possibly not Ubuntu, and
Yeah.
focus on a different issue.
That's the idea. You do.
Can we make that an action item for you?
I'll send a letter of query to Dr. Dobbs. Now that one may be a longer term thing because,
RG4W, right?
yeah, I've only been published a few times.
Mm-hmm.
They may be reluctant to sign on to a call, but I bet I could probably get at least a single article to start.
And that was what? Dr. Dobbs?
Oh, have you not read Dr. Dobbs?
No. DOBBS?
Yeah.
Yeah, for serious coding, they've got a nice platform and language agnostic publication.
Okay.
But the idea of having it focused on a specific thing is it gives people ideas, and then you can say, for this specific thing, here's a link to the developer site for that specific thing, which explains how to use it. And you can give people a few ideas about this would be an interesting app.
I wonder if we can get a regular column in one of the Linux magazines,
Or
Ubuntu User or Linux Pro or something.
Or the O'Reilly website publishes a lot of information, articles in addition to their.
Yeah, they have a Linux blog that's not too hard to get authorship on.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
Also, the late great Jonathan Bacon Esquire has no Bernie column, does he not? Actually, I
Does
do
he?
John know. But it's worth asking him about it. I mean, I don't know whether he can still do it, but revitalising that to talk about this sort of thing, maybe not every month, but he presumably got the contacts there. Pushing under the bus, he's going near. That's fabulous.
Always do the room model and make $1,000, look at 9,000 extra.
Well,
So is this the hack week you're talking about, or has it got an actual name? This initiative?
my document about it is called App Hack Week, but name subject to change. I think
Yeah, just to-
I think that's what it's going to get called.
Rather than calling something.
What are you going to
Even
use
if it's not
for prizes? Suppose you could just give some free
Don't
Ubuntu space.
don't know yet.
Okay.
That's still under discussion.
Okay.
I think we could extend this to the. I think we could extend this to not only Ubuntu one, but also to other kind of apps. I mean, do you think we could work together to do
Look,
this?
well, absolutely. The reason I'm suggesting it to you guys is that that we could sort of, you can imagine tying in. So, I mean, obviously, because we're U1, we're encouraging people to enter Ubuntu apps, but also Android apps, iOS apps, whatever.
Yeah, well,
But
it's-
you've done
they're,
right,
they're
try
apps.
something.
They're apps, so they're interesting
Yeah,
to us too.
exactly. But I have no problem. You know, if you imagine you guys are running something similar, you can imagine us saying, if you're doing this for Ubuntu, here's a couple of good examples of how to do this sort of thing, and you guys can say, oh, and if you're interested in using it as well, just do Ubuntu one as one of your subjects or whatever. Yeah, but there's certainly some crossover there.
So, how can we do this? I mean, I think it's just a matter of us basically talking about it and following the process.
Yeah.
So I'll just put an action on me to follow up with you on this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got some documentation or any plans, then you can.
I've got the. I mean, they're not with me, but I'll drop you an email or something. Stick a note in for me to, well, you know, for us to follow up with one another. I don't even know how that works. Does that map onto a blueprint properly?
No,
Your query is
sometimes,
something
yeah, it won't work like this. So
Oh,
just put
Launchpad? SIL?
SL?
SIL.
Okay.
just put one on me because it doesn't work for both, or
Oh, right,
duplicate
yeah.
the actions and put one on him. And
Put one on him and one on me, yeah. Interesting.
Michael,
Hmm?
may I request a small modification to my task item?
Okay.
As I think this through, Dr. Dobbs is too specific for the goal. So let's look into have it be find publication for regular Ubuntu call.
Do you want me to just put you on that second one then and get rid of the first?
Yeah, or just change that item there so that it's rather than Dr. Dobbs specifically, it's a publication. So the goal is to get something regular. It may or may not be Dr. Dobbs.
Okay.
All right.
And if you could send us an email, then I'll just complete the action to basically send an email with your file.
Oh, yeah. And well, and that one is the type of thing that may be good for sort of an open call and a little coordination. I suspect that one of the tough jobs here is that herding cats element, where we don't want to have a couple of writers bombarding a single editor with similar ideas.
Mhm.
So it might be nice to have somebody who's sort of coordinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, people can raise their hand and say, I think I might like to write about this topic. Do you have publications that, you know have been hit up or might be hunting for it? And you sort of lead brokers.
We do have another session about external outreach where this could be.
Yeah, that would be good
to discuss.
When would that be?
I think it's on Friday. I can't remember.
Unfortunately, I'll be out of town, but I'll log in remote.
How long are you going to
I'll
be
see if
here?
I can. I'm here only through tomorrow.
Oh, only through tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'll look and see if I can get it scheduled for tomorrow.
That'd be cool.
Depends about-
Well, that would be very convenient.
Are you here all day tomorrow?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. Right, so one thing I was thinking was that we, instead of having like or maybe in addition to having 1 week-long app developer event, maybe have smaller events that are staggered throughout the 6-month release that target the app development lifecycle.
Mhm.
So maybe early on, we'll have one day where we walk people through getting started with a project, going through the quickly process and bazaar and whatnot. And then a few weeks or a month later, we'll go through the process of like building their packages from wherever they're at in the current development of their project. And then a little while after that, we walk them through getting it ready and submit it to My Apps.
I think that's a really good idea. What I would suggest though is not to make it like Ubuntu app developer like, so not make it IRC. I think IRC is good for the app developer week and this kind of events because we've got lots of content in there and it's all concentrated in 1 week. But if we make like more focused sessions, it might be a good idea to do a screencast or a Ustream
Okay.
or whatever. Like have a
Jono, could we
weekly
get
session.
a live Hangout account?
I asked for one,
Actually,
And they said no.
and they didn't turn my call.
Actually, I read something on Google Plus yesterday, I think, and it was and they said someone said that Google were opening up these Google Earth things and basically allowing to have more than 9 people to the call. So it might be worth it.
Hangout's lots better than Ustream then.
So one of the major benefits of a Hangout is that you can share your desktop.
Oh, that's a massive benefit. Okay,
Yeah,
right.
which is really useful. There are apparently hacks which we tried to fix all the time.
Oh yeah, I do.
But there's
Still got the code for that somewhere, I think.
yeah. The problem is that you have to be basically Amber Grainer to be able to have a live call.
Can
It's a
we
pretty
use
nice app.
Amber's account?
Huh?
Or can we use Amber's Hangout for that?
Yeah, and then 5 Lenaro people get paid.
So, couple of additional thoughts, and I haven't really thought either of them through entirely. But the first one is, imagine you're doing the competition and you're focusing on particular things. We talk about focusing on individual technologies, so something which works in the messaging menu, something which works in the sound menu, something which works in the launcher, whatever. But
Yeah, or specifically, things that target GStreamer or
yeah,
something else.
or build a scope, a lens, or whatever. Yeah, I built a scope rather. But you can imagine, like I haven't thought this through properly, targeting specific areas of the Ubuntu community rather than specific technologies. So it's not write an app, write a scope. It's Ubuntu Spanish team, write anything at all, but useful to Spanish people specifically. So you're identifying subgroups. So you're more narrowly targeted, more directly targeted. I'm not sure this is a good idea.
I'm not sure about doing it for language.
Oh, well,
but
subgroups
maybe do like
arbitrary subgroups.
That makes
target artists. Somebody come up with an app that involves art somehow.
I don't know. I don't know whether it's a good idea.
There is this girl in Norway that just made a lens for buses times.
Yeah, the bus routes.
Oh,
yeah.
In a very specific city in
Yeah.
Norway. So
Which got me thinking I should do one for my city too, actually. Yeah.
and maybe we should focus on contests on specific topics rather than on specific technologies, even if both are great. When I think about development contests, I think about games contests like we do there or something like that, which are not on specific technology but on a subject, on a world, on a frame.
Yeah.
And the second idea, which again I haven't properly thought through, but we mentioned in the last session, actually have an online hack day. So instead of something teaching people how to build apps, you just build apps. You set it aside for a day and then say everyone's going to be there and talking about what they're doing, and you encourage people to, sort of live blog the whole thing or something, and you've got a permanent ongoing hangout where people drop in and ask questions and drop back out again. But it's designed, so it's like a hack day, like the Yahoo hack days or music hack day or whatever, but on IRC. I don't know if it
Well, I think what I'm thinking more and more is that I should resuscitate the Ustream that I used to have for translations and convert it to a hangout, like weekly or bi-weekly hangout.
Yeah. So
doing
for,
something.
for app developers, I don't see them really getting involved in joining up with a bunch of other people and creating a different app. They're really more concerned about their own app.
Oh yeah, well, for new developers, for getting started.
Hack days are massively popular. Now, they may be massively popular precisely because you put everyone in one location and that's what's cool. So I don't know, because you lose that sense of interaction of everyone being in the same room, eating the same pizza, and going up, looking at other people's shoulders to see what they're building. Because the way it works is normally for a hack day, some company will volunteer their offices, or someone will hire a building or whatever. Everyone comes in, you're there for 24 hours straight. Someone sponsors the pizza an unbelievable amount of cans of Coke. Everyone just hacks for 24 hours, and then for 23 hours. In the last hour or so, everyone gets up on stage and presents the thing that they've built.
Oh, okay. So everybody's working kind of on their own thing, not collaboratively on one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sometimes you might have small teams.
Yeah, quite often you'll get 2 or 3 people who work together. It's not just everyone turns up and hacks on their own laptop. People turn up and they're working in little groups of 2 or 3 or whatever.
So I've seen this work online really well in the Ruby community. It's not something I've
Oh, really?
participated in.
Oh, cool.
It's not something I've participated in, but like I have friends who have done it, where they basically, there's a bunch of game libraries around, or there's a bunch of libraries in Ruby around building games, and they'll do things like, build a game week or build a game day, where basically everybody has 28 hours or 48 hours to build an app. And so sometimes they collaborate. Usually it ends up being one person, but it's still a pretty cool contest. And really, I don't think there were any prizes. I think it was just they built some apps. I can ask my friend that participated.
And this then ties back into a thing called Ludum Dare.
Sorry?
Ludum Dare. It's a game competition. They run it once every 2 or 3 months, and you get 24 hours or 48 hours, I forget which it is, to build the game. And they pick a subject, but the subject's really vague. It's like, change or something. So it's just an arbitrary thing to hang that month's competition on. And then they normally get a couple of hundred submissions, and you can write it in any language you want, whatever, and then people vote. And they're up to like Ludum Dare 50 or something now. And it's pretty popular.
Okay.
It's obviously, there are a few little rules, like you're not supposed to prepare all the assets for your game.
Mm-hmm.
So none of the games are finished. They're all, brilliant physics implementations of a box jumping and stuff. But the principle is, it's another good example of the kind of thing you guys are talking about doing. So we're looking at what they've done to see what they did right, what they did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Ludum Dare, L-U-D-U-M.
Yeah, just trying to put the website in the notes. Oh, not a good idea. You have to put the Google link.
Kill Google. Yeah, they certainly inspired my thoughts on the contest thing.
It's called the contest I mentioned is called Ruby Weekend.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Sounds like the same sort of thing.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. You get a weekend to hack on a project.
And Ludum Dare is just online, obviously, but they've got an IRC channel where people go in there and hang out and ask questions about, ironically, Unity 3D, but the game thing, not after.
Yeah.
At least I mean it was complicated. Yeah, it was actually all online. This wasn't an in-person one, although the in-person one was very successful as well, which is.
I have in the web world, certainly, Yahoo used to run loads of them, and you quite often get hacked. And they sort of shade into things like bar camps as well.
Mm-hmm.
Similar kind of vibe. But hack days are a relatively big thing in web development. And there's one called Music Hack Day, which happens once every few months. It's in a different city every time, sort of San Francisco, London, Berlin, whatever. And people go along and they just hack on something and they demonstrate it at the end of the day. And companies with some kind of music API offering will show up, and because they want to encourage people to use their APIs, but I know probably going to go to one at some point. And I should talk about Ubuntu UDS music streaming and then say, look, use this, build an app with this, and I'll build an app and then demonstrate it at the end. So,
I like the idea of doing that online. I like the idea of doing that online, and maybe we can get like specific experts, like an Ubuntu One expert in the room who can answer Ubuntu One related questions.
Absolutely.
While they're at it.
And you can almost imagine going to people who've got a thing they'd like to use. I mean, we're perfect examples here.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd say, well, encourage someone to come from Ubuntu One because we want to build Ubuntu One apps, right? So encourage us to come to your thing and talk about what it is we're doing. So have a little selection of talks at the beginning from people who are saying, here are some cool things you could do, and then a selection of presentations at the end or something. I don't know exactly how you do it, but
a hangout would be good for presenting at the end.
yeah.
Well, that's kind of a nice thing, is that it builds a library over time. So you do the presentation live, and you have a recording that people didn't make it go back and refer to.
You saw how some of the tutorials in the Ubuntu developer site came to life.
Yeah, and the other advantage is all these things that get written, even if they don't end up being full-fledged apps, they're still rich sources of example code for the developer side, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully so. Well, there's stuff that someone wrote in 24 hours with no sleep and too much code. It's probably not necessarily the best example, but you know what?
All right, and so let's try to put some of the action, but in writing. But I'd like to review the initiatives to make sure that we've captured everything. Yeah. So, I mean, I think I still like to run the App Developer Week because it generates quite a lot of interest, and also another thing that's interesting about the Ubuntu App Developer Week is that it generates interest from the media too. So we get quite a lot of articles from Linux media and such, which is quite interesting. So we've got the Ubuntu App Developer Contest, which would be just one-off contest, basically. We've got the App Hack Week, and we've got Hack Days. Anything else that I've forgotten? The last thing we were commenting, the Hangouts. me just take note. So
And the top action item says check media outlets when we do our regular cold app.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's like leaving it.
yeah,
So
that was
you're
me.
gonna
That
add
was
to
me.
that?
That was me. Send.
Just kind of open-ended.
With finding.
Michael, if you're talking about the life cycle being lined up with the release cycle, is that a good end point? People end up with something ready to publish 2 days before release.
Well, we would stagger it. Well,
Well,
for
what I'm saying is there a best point in the life cycle, in the release cycle to finish and say, I want to publish this now?
yes, and for independent app developers who would go through my apps instead of into, say, Universe, we don't need to worry about like the feature freeze. I mean, they can push it to my apps after the release date and still get it into the software center for that release.
The whole point of my apps is you don't have to care about the image release
Yeah.
cycle, right?
Yeah, but if we could get them to have it ready at or around release day, then they will benefit from the buzz of the release also. It also gives us a good cadence so that, you know, we reset the life cycle checkpoints.
Yeah, I love the idea of
With
the
our
basics.
cycles.
Just, yeah, it's good.
In terms of the hack days, I think it's just a matter again of basically thinking of how to run them.
Yeah,
I think
pick a topic, figure out what venue or resources or whatnot we're gonna need to pull it off.
I think each one of these initiatives, apart from the app developer week, which is relatively simple to run, apart from finding people to the presentations, need a bit of thinking and a bit of. Yeah, I mean they I think they all need some sort of spec or document to think what we're actually going to do. So.
Okay, how about what he suggested of getting some actual like physical printouts for local people to take to developer conferences?
All right, yeah, that's a good point. But I think before we do that, we do need what we were talking about earlier on as well, the flyers and the material to give to them, basically to enable them to do the presentations.
Right. So,
One other thought, again, I'm not sure it's a good thought, but encouraging, helping locals to run actual in-person hack days.
To run, sorry?
To run actual in-person hack days. Not the online ones, but the ones where you get everyone together, encouraging locals to do that, helping
Yeah, sort
locals
of like
to
what we do
explain
with
how.
like what we do with the bug jump, but like focused on on the global jump.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the global jump, but for app,
Yeah.
but for app developers,
Yeah.
similar kind of thing. Again, don't know whether it sounds like quite a lot of work.
There's a lot of like local sort of like dev agnostic, like platform agnostic dev events. Like there's a SoCal Code Camp.
Yeah.
There's 2 SoCal Code Camps actually in different areas that are. They accept things like I've seen where the presentations there on everything ranging from like enterprise Java development to like latest .NET framework. It's basically run at like on college campuses.
Yeah.
And there's a reason the other groups are going after the college kids. It's because that's if you get them before they go to the
Yeah.
industry.
Mhm.
So,
No,
and college kids have all this copious spare time
And
to
then
like
all-
spend
and all
on
the
crazy
spare time,
projects
yeah.
that will not turn into anything useful.
Oh, yeah.
So,
They had the last one in the LA area was had a lot of underwriting from Microsoft.
yeah, and they always do, but they seem to accept other
Well,
platforms.
that's a really, yeah, it was a big event. I mean, I kept hearing about it from all sorts of different.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but for this, it's actually, I think, perfect.
It might also be worth, I know we talked about this a bit earlier, travelling to various places is not necessarily on the cards because there's no budget.
yeah.
But,
I think that's. Oh, sorry, go on.
but doing talks at events that already exist that we might have been going to anyway, I mean, it's okay. scale's a perfectly good example. I hear the bloke Ubuntu's right.
I've skirted the edge of my mandate at every place I've spoken over the last couple of years to squeeze in some message about how easy it is to develop for Ubuntu.
Right. And if we can provide you with some extra resources that can help you spread that.
I'm happy to.
At least some pre-prepared materials, like you
Yeah.
keep saying.
Right, we can even make that part of like the conference packs and stuff that we send to local teams.
Yeah, and you can imagine, you know, you doing a talk on Hello Unity, and do it at some conference somewhere, and then get the video from that, get the slide deck you used, and like you say, make it part of the materials, and say, here's a good example of a talk, done. Why not go to scale and do that? You've got 18 guys with the same talk and scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Can't possibly read that black and purple sort of
Yeah. Maybe your boss will sign for spending 6 months traveling.
He's already sending George all over the place.
Those days are over for me.
And therefore they're over field tables.
No, I think you'll still send George all over the world.
But yeah, I mean, that would be the idea of encouraging people to go and talk at conferences local to them would be a cool one, I think.
Yeah, especially if we can provide them enough so like if they don't know that much about it to feel comfortable presenting it themselves, if we can just give them some material to hand out even.
Yeah, having people go, you know, this is people going to bar camps, not people going to old school.
Yeah.
So it's, but that sort of thing, sort of, you know, big events like scale down to little things. So just go there and talk about this. It gets out the idea that you can do this stuff.
Yeah.
It's publicity.
Even if they just, you know, if they go to a talk where somebody else is talking about this cool app they wrote, they can say, hey, you should, you know, check out all the stuff that Ubuntu offers for you to port it.
Look at how easy it was to build this out.
Come to LA and do something good like Oakland Crosby. It would be fun.
Right. So, do you have anything that we want to put in the actions that we might have forgotten from the things we've been talking about? So we've got up Hack Week.
So, Jono, who can we talk to about finding some prizes that we could offer for these contests?
For app development contests?
Yeah.
Well, we already had a commitment from David Pitkin. So we talked about doing an app development contest once in 1204, and then we got a bit scared by the packaging aspect.
Yeah.
So we decided not to do it. And David Pitkin preliminary committed to $1,000.
Well,
Giving out cash prizes?
The idea of probably buying a couple of netbooks.
well, this is interesting. I don't want to go too deeply into this, but one of the reasons that I hand waved a lot about the prizes earlier is that it's hard. Because realistically, everyone in here's already got a netbook, right? If I go, here's a netbook, you go, brilliant, and then it goes in a drawer.
Wow.
And
we're geeks. We like. I mean,
it's nice.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, talk to George. How many?
George is an exception.
I get the point.
But that's what George's got 9,000 laptops running mad.
Could we give credits to like either purchases in the software center or purchases in the music store or Ubuntu One?
Well, I mean, I'm fair to be involved in a conversation about Ubuntu One stuff as prizes, but giving prizes in general is hard. Giving out money, you think, well, that sounds easy, we can write a check, right? And the legal people go, no.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've done a bunch of work on this, and it would be be some kind of canonical thingy probably. And I can fill you guys in on that at some point.
Okay.
But one of the things I'd be interested to hear is what is ideas for prizes that would be good and aren't, legally questionable.
The reality is, whether it's a laptop or anything else, there's always people always end up winning things they don't want. I mean,
Exactly.
Like that's. I mean, we give away like 50 books at scale every year, and the reality is everybody goes home and goes, PHP for dummies, but like I'm a C developer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm thinking. If
Oh,
we can-
another 13 copies of the art community, whatever.
That's what I was thinking. If we
Yeah.
if we can give a voucher that's available for like a variety of things that we sell, then they've got a pretty good choice. If they want more cloud storage or they like music,
Yeah,
or
I
they want a shirt
don't
from
think
the
you
store.
could just have a voucher with the Ubuntu logo on it. You can spend on anything. I'm not sure it works like that.
And I have to wonder.
Just thinking about how the
Yeah.
back ends work. Yeah.
I have to wonder if the cash value of such a thing, even though I might appreciate it myself, is worth nearly as much as having your name on a roster somewhere as that cool
That's
guy.
true. Maybe we
who
should
won
just get
last
Mark to
month's
blog
contest.
about the winner.
Yeah, exactly. Just the notoriety.
We should definitely
thing.
do that anyway.
We're
To
developing,
some
that's really what we're after.
extent, this is the point. I mean, we've been thinking in terms of, a donation to charity on your behalf, or something like that, or maybe we contribute to a Kickstarter project of your choice.
Or an upstream contribution or
Or
something like that in the name of.
But
Yeah,
it's
in a way.
but that sort of thing becomes difficult to do. So beware of prizes.
It depends on who you're targeting for the audience here. I mean, if you're targeting college kids, maybe they'd love to get a netbook. But if you're targeting
Yeah.
professionals, they're not, prizes are not compelling. Maybe
Yeah.
some are
Name
compelling.
somewhere a nice piece of like canonical or Ubuntu swag. Actually, I
Community
think it's
cloud
probably
is really
like
important to everyone.
the guy with the Open NMS guys did this at a cooler hackathons, and Tars has talked about this a number of times. He's got like the order of the green polo, where he just like hands. He's got like there's a green polo that says Open NMS on it. Basically, if you've done something noteworthy at a
Yes.
hackathon, you get one. And the amount of work he says he gets out of people just for that.
So you create invisible badge value out of something.
Right.
Yeah, just a big, right.
Yeah.
Like a nice sweater is actually goes a long way.
And that's the thing.
It's like RSA Emily.
If I've got a laptop, it's not going to be as good as my laptop because I spent 6 months choosing it. And it's brilliant. It's the best one on the market, right?
The key motivator
So
for
says you.
professional developers is recognition. I think
Yeah.
that story tells it, and we see this time and again.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you can get Mark to say, hey, thanks to for this wonderful contribution, and other places, and there's a roster,
Yeah.
and maybe a special T-shirt that nobody else gets.
Right.
They wear that
Well,
and to the next
yeah.
UDS, and they're one of those who have that T-shirt.
This is like the
That's
don't
nice.
listen. This is like the don't listen alone T-shirts we have for like radio.
Yeah.
Oh, just along the lines too, where you're talking about who's the target audience. Maybe have some hack days that are targeted at college students and some that aren't targeted at professionals, especially if you're doing
Yeah, that was.
a contest, because that different motivation, different ideas, things like that.
Yeah.
Those guys want a laptop, all I want is a T-shirt. But yeah.
But that makes perfect sense, right? You have different
Yeah.
audiences and you targeted.
My only concern about this to a small degree is, one of the things we've talked about is when going after focusing on new app developers is that we are building quite a separate community. Really. So I think that, for example, getting a signed picture of Mark or something like that, that's cool for our community.
Right,
But
right.
outside of it,
So
Right, but
so
getting
you
their
need
app
to-
promoted might be a
Yeah.
good
So
incentive.
you need to make recognition by the guys who run Ubuntu app
Yeah.
development be the badge value there. So
Right.
A special
you can,
place in the
you
store.
can imagine being featured on developer.ubuntu.com.
yeah.
You
Or
know,
for example, having a banner and
Yeah,
stuff.
like
that
so,
says-
so,
Or
so if you are
banner
going,
information,
if you
yeah.
go to a job interview and you say, "Oh, I've got a signed picture of Mark Shuttleworth," they're not going to care.
Yeah.
But if you go in there and say, "Yeah, I wrote this app that Mark Shuttleworth was blogging about and got all this attention,"
I wrote the #1 Ubuntu developer app for July 2000.
yeah,
That's perfect, and I think as far as the separate communities, it really comes down to each community that you go after is going to, like we keep saying, is going to have a different desire. So the college campus is actually, like we keep saying, that's the
Yeah.
perfect place for monetary value, because they don't, most of them probably don't know who, who the these notable names are in the community. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, Ubuntu, there's this cool logo. That's great.
Well, I just thought, could we give people like a badge on Launchpad? Then I thought, this is what
Oh,
you
the
awarded accomplishments for.
Yes, that's exactly what it's
But ignoring that, you can imagine, like on Reddit you get flair,
Mhm.
Ubuntu member flair, or whatever. Something like that, you give people something where they can say, look, I wrote an award-winning app, or just I wrote an app for the competition. So they get something, next to your name on the forums, or
It's one of those. I think it's one of those things where, as we kind of grow this new community that's slightly different to our own, but related, I think we need to be like, there are going to be people in our community who are going to be interested in writing apps, and so things like this are really, in my mind, are really cool because, frankly, for someone to get a signed picture of Marshall, it's a big deal. For a lot of people in the Ubuntu community, I mean, it's cool. But outside of it, not so much. But to me, like someone outside of it, what they're going to really want is recognition of their app. That's going to be really cool. Like having it in, I think if I was an app developer outside of Ubuntu and my app was featured on the banner, I'd be screenshotting that and I'd feel proud. That to me would be really cool, apart from some mystery space guy who.
I mean, look what people do to get how people react to being like the featured Apple app of the day. And obviously that's fairly big. That's fairly big. That's really big exposure comparatively to mobile. I mean,
it kind of longer term, you can imagine a software center showing a little emblem next to winning
That's a
apps.
good idea.
It involves an approximately infinite amount of work on the back end, but it's conceptually doable. I've only said it because everybody's not in the room, but it's. But
that's something that can be added to like ratings and reviews. We can add
you can have
awards
plus 1,000 to rating. For
yeah,
example.
absolutely. Or next to the rating, it's got there's an extra little star inside the Ubuntu logo or something, and then you mouse over it and it says rated number 2 in the July 2012 competition or something.
No, when I meet somebody like here or at one of the conferences, if they're in Launchpad, I like to go to Launchpad and see what projects they participated in, what accomplishments they've had. And this is a big accomplishment, They won a contest. That's a nice thing to have in some sort of place where such things are.
Yeah, I suppose we can make like a Launchpad group that we add people to when they win a contest so that they get the little emblem on Launchpad.
I don't know how it would work, but I like the green polo thing.
That's
the
nice.
whole idea of perceived value around something, sort of artificial scarcity of this thing, but you only get this gold t-shirt. You only get this flair next to your name. You only get this branding.
George
and
and Pete Grainer were talking about something last week where we would have like special coins made. And a very limited number
of army thing.
Yeah, the army thing.
I got this in Budapest.
We've George's determined to do this.
But something like that, where we've got a limited quantity of something that has that carries some reputation with it.
Fill people in on the idea.
Okay, so the idea was that I guess this is some army tradition where every unit has a small number of these specially made coins. And when somebody goes above and beyond the Call of Duty, they're given one of these coins as recognition, and it becomes like a status symbol.
It's like a community awarded medal.
Yeah,
more or less.
If you don't wear it anymore, you just keep it in.
Not clear. Not an army guy, but.
Yeah, but there was there's prestige that came with it because there were only so many of them, and it was hard to earn. And
and then it's really hard to compete with that, like you were saying, that limited quantity. Let's strive for this thing. The number of times I've done like a ridiculous amount of work to get like a little yellow plastic trophy or something at the office, and I'm like, what did I do like those 14 hours of work for again? Like this.
Look at the amount of hours people put into Facebook memes.
Yeah, just like the
have a score on their page.
Yeah. Well, I know the thing with the army coins was if you go to a bar with a bunch of army guys, like if you present yours and the other person doesn't have one, they buy you a beer. If you present it and they have one also, then you have to buy them a beer. And so it became kind of a contest when you went somewhere with your army buddies to see who's got them and who doesn't.
Well, that's like chicken, but with
that fosters a spirit of community I can get behind.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
You can get laser.
So yeah, talk to George about it and get the, because I have no idea how this actually
See,
works.
George gave me this rap and I ignored it, and I should have paid more attention.
Does it involve beer?
Because he didn't pause for breath for half an hour while he was describing it. If I remember right. But it seems like I still that idea for my thing as well. But yeah, that sort of thing. It's
You know what you should
creative.
do? You should just approach him like this was your idea.
But the idea of creating badge value around something which is artificially scarce, rather than trying to think of a genuinely valuable prize, because first of all, you've got to pick something which is genuinely valuable to everybody, which is hard, and secondly, legal minefield. But something where we just go, yeah, but you've got the blue Ubuntu t-shirt, which no one else has got, or whatever, or
Nice baby blue Quetzal t-shirt.
yeah. Design team minefield. That. But yeah, that principle, just literally like a flare next to your name on IRC or something. It's like, I mean, the IRC cloaks thing is kind of like this. Well, not that they're particularly visible or anything, but you get an Ubuntu member cloak.
Well, there's certainly a variety of forms of recognition, and at the barest minimum, because we're dealing with a developer who have some mention of their Launchpad account, which they need anyway to put it into the archives, and then some mention for the app into the software center, where it's visible to the world as a whole.
Yeah.
At a minimum, that's not a bad starting point, and we could build on that as we go. And also send them the space and also other possible enhancements. But at the bare minimum, that I think the motivated very useful. Special prominent placement called out by you as that guy who did something really cool. And it's free software. We're not in this for the money.
Well, there might be people who are writing these apps for money. So.
No, and I know I understand that too, but I'm saying that we, as people in this room, recognize that a lot of what drives developers is peer respect. Not in a competitive way that's unhealthy, but in a very healthy way, in a way that says, I put a lot of time into this, and everyone in the room goes, yeah, and it's cool.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what this sort of is on a certain level.
Yeah.
And like he's been saying, it's better than a fourth crappy network.
Yeah, exactly.
And cheaper for Canonical to put in.
Yeah.
Yeah, putting it in the code of conduct that every time someone says your name, they have to say after it or something. It costs
would just be finding capability out or something.
That'd be fabulous.
All right, so are we good on action items then?
Yeah.
Okay.
There
What
is
is
something
this?
to say.
What is this link at the bottom?